Something is shifting inside the NASCAR garage this week, and most of the sport does not fully understand it yet. Crews are unloading haulers, drivers are running through their usual routines, preparing for another weekend the way they have prepared for the last 9 years. But underneath that familiar routine, the rulebook they have all raced under is being quietly rewritten, and none of them have ever competed under what comes next. Picture the moment a caution flag flies. For nearly a decade, that moment meant one thing, the same thing, every single time. Starting this weekend, at a track measuring just 0.85 miles, it could mean something entirely different, instantly, without warning, without the build-up drivers have learned to expect over years of racing. Insiders covering the sport daily are already calling it a bombshell. Nobody in the garage has raced under these exact conditions before, and by Sunday afternoon, that will no longer be a hypothetical sitting in a memo somewhere. The location is Iowa Speedway, hosting only its third-ever Cup Series event in track history. The chain of events tracing back to this moment began weeks earlier at the Brickyard 400 at Indianapolis Motor Speedway on July 26, 2026, where fans grew furious over long, dragging caution periods that ate directly into green flag racing time. That frustration did not fade quietly in the background. It reached the desk of NASCAR CEO Steve O'Donnell, the man now standing behind this decision. He has framed the move as a direct response to fans who grew tired of back-to-back cautions eating into the on-track action they came to see. Here is the mechanic itself, stripped down to its simplest form. If a natural caution occurs with 10 or fewer laps remaining in Stage 1 or Stage 2, that stage is now declared over immediately. There is no more riding around under yellow for extra laps while everyone waits for a restart that used to be guaranteed. The stage simply ends the moment caution comes out inside that window. This change takes effect this weekend, meaning every driver heading into Iowa is about to compete under a rule they have never lived with at any point in their careers. The new mechanic works like this. The leader is handed the green and white checkered flag under caution, and the top 10 stage finish is determined through scoring loops and video replay, the identical system NASCAR already uses to award stage points during normal green flag conditions. This is not a minor procedural footnote buried in a rulebook nobody reads. It rewires how every team calculates pit strategy, tire strategy, and fuel windows for the remainder of the 2026 season. If you're new to this channel, hit subscribe, because we're closing in on 1,500 subscribers here at NASCAR Trackline TV, and every single one of you is helping us dig into stories NASCAR isn't fully explaining to its fans yet. And this rule lands at the worst possible time on the calendar. Only 4 races remain before the chase begins. Denny Hamlin, Tyler Reddick, Ryan Blaney, and Ty Gibbs have already locked in their playoff spots, while a brutal fight rages on underneath them for the remaining 12 positions. That fight has a face, and his name is Austin Cindric. He currently sits on the bubble with just a 38-point cushion over Ryan Preece, the first driver sitting below the cut line right now. His entire season could hinge on a rule he has never raced under before this weekend. A single lost stage point, or a single gained one, under this new system, could be the difference between racing for a championship and going home once the regular season ends. Above him, the points lead battle carries its own separate tension. Denny Hamlin holds an 84-point lead over Tyler Reddick heading into Iowa. Whether a new stage-ending mechanic helps a points leader protect that cushion, or instead creates chaos that flips the standings entirely, remains an open question nobody can answer until the green flag actually drops. Every stage now carries a layer of unpredictability that simply did not exist a month ago, and every team in the field is aware of it heading into Sunday. Then there is William Byron, the defending Iowa race winner, currently riding a 23-race winless streak that has followed him for months. This weekend represents his best shot yet to end that drought, except he is now walking into a rulebook nobody in the garage has tested under real race conditions. His crew chief has no prior data on how the new stage-ending mechanic will influence pit calls at this specific 0.85-mile layout. And there is Kyle Larson, carrying the most explosive storyline of all heading into Sunday. A 31.0 average finish at Iowa, paired with a 46-race winless streak that continues to grow with every passing week. He now faces a track and a rulebook both working against him at the exact same time, with almost no margin left for error. The moment this news broke, it did not simply make headlines and fade away. It triggered an immediate wave of reaction across the entire NASCAR fanbase, splitting almost instantly into two very different camps. One camp is treating this as the clearest sign yet that NASCAR's new leadership is actually listening to the people who watch every week. They point to it as proof that decisions are getting made mid-season now, instead of the usual, "we'll look into it," promises that historically go nowhere and get forgotten by the next race weekend. The other camp is spreading a darker theory, one that remains unproven, but is gaining traction fast across social media. The concern is that this rule change hands teams a dangerous new lever to pull when it matters most. If a driver desperately needs a caution before a stage ends, all it takes is a teammate spinning at the right moment to lock in points before green flag racing can take that opportunity away. No accusation has been confirmed by anyone inside the sport, but the fear is already circulating widely among fans who have watched manipulation debates before. Alongside that, a strategic paranoia thread has emerged in these same discussions. Fans are debating whether 10 laps is too generous a cushion at a short track like Iowa, compared to how it might play out at a superspeedway or a road course with completely different racing patterns. They are also questioning whether that specific number was properly tested before being rushed into use this weekend under pressure. Underneath all of it sits the sport's oldest unresolved argument, resurfacing once again in comment sections everywhere. Why not eliminate stage cautions altogether? That debate remains just as unsettled today as it has ever been across the sport's history. And there is a question nobody has answered yet, one that could define the entire weekend. What happens if rain forces a caution inside that final 10-lap window at Iowa? Could a race be declared official earlier than expected, before the checkered flag even makes logical sense to fans watching at home? There is also growing uncertainty over whether the 10-lap threshold itself will be adjusted per track going forward. Could 10 laps at Iowa mean something completely different than 10 laps at a drafting track like Daytona or Talladega, where the entire field runs 3 wide at nearly 190 miles per hour? A short track, a superspeedway, and a road course all produce caution flags in completely different ways, and this new rule currently treats every one of them exactly the same. Steve O'Donnell has publicly framed this change as only a starting point, something that could still evolve over time as the season continues. What that evolution might actually look like has not been revealed to teams or fans. What has been confirmed, however, is that this procedure now applies for the remainder of the 2026 season across all 3 national series. Iowa is not an isolated experiment happening in isolation. It is the first real test of a rule that could ultimately decide who makes the chase this year. Drivers will roll off pit road this weekend with no real experience racing under this system, no data, and no precedent to lean on when decisions need to be made in seconds. A field of playoff-desperate teams is walking straight into a rule that could reward brilliant strategy or invite manipulation that nobody can prove happened. Drop your predictions down in the comments below. Share this video with a fellow NASCAR fan who needs to see exactly what is coming, and stick around for what happens next. If you enjoy real NASCAR breakdowns like this, you'll like what's coming next.